Well, hello, Arlyna. I am so happy to have you here with me. We're interviewing for the Virtual Art Summit, and you're actually my very first interview. I'm very
Oh,
excited about having you on the
okay.
Virtual Art Summit because I love your artwork. Every time it comes through my feed, I'm just like, ooh, all that layers and textures and colors. You have a very distinct style. So I appreciate you so
Oh,
much for joining me.
oh, oh, thank you, Kelly. I mean, I've always been a fan of your work as well. I think it's been like what, more than 5 years, I think, since I've started following you. And so, I'm
Oh,
one of your longest fan.
that's so wonderful to know. Like, I'm glad our paths finally crossed and that I get to see in
Oh,
real time, like in your video, how you create your work. It's going to be really exciting. I know everyone's going to love it. Your
thank you.
Instagram account is AB Shanghai because
Yeah,
you are actually in Shanghai.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I
I
would love
couldn't
it if
find the
you,
right name
yeah, no,
for
I love
myself
it.
back then. It was, it's been, I think I've been on Instagram since 2010 or 12,
When it
probably
first
around that time.
started.
Yeah, so I couldn't find the right name back then. So,
Which means you've
and
been in Shanghai for quite some time, but it is not your home of birth.
no,
So
no.
please tell us a little bit about your story, where you come from and how you ended up in Shanghai and what you're doing now.
Uh, how long do you have?
Oh, we have a
uh,
while. I would
okay,
love to
I'll
hear the
just try.
story.
Okay, I'll just try to shorten it up a bit. But I was born in the Philippines, and I'm part Chinese and Filipino. So I studied university there. I studied art because ever since I was little, I've always been drawing, and basically it's drawing, the only pastime. There's no phone or not much of TV going on. So I used to draw a lot of Wonder Woman, and anyway, so I've always been creating art since I was little, and then I insisted to my dad I was going to go to study art in college, but mentality of Chinese was that art doesn't pay. So it was either you go into business or you go nursing or doctor or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I managed to get degree in art and then ever since then I've been working in the art field. And then after graduating in college, I moved to Taiwan where I also wasn't planning on staying for long, but I ended up staying there for 12 years. And in between then, I was tired of it. And, during the halfway through my 12 years, I decided to go to China, well, come to China. I don't know how to say that, but, and I also insisted to my dad that I was coming. And of course, back then, China wasn't open. It was kind of a little after Tiananmen Square. Well, I don't know if
Uh-huh.
that's going to be censored. Anyway, um,
Don't
so
say that. It didn't happen.
so I studied Chinese painting um, for 6 months because that's how much I could afford. But the experience was amazing. Um, and then I just thought, like, I had that connection, especially because my grandparents were from China, Ming. And then I went back to Taiwan, then basically got married and then moved to Shanghai. And our plan was to stay for 2 3 years, and then we just ended up staying here, and now it's been 23 years. Yeah,
Wow.
this year's 23rd year. So
Do
it's
you have family there in Shanghai?
yeah, I have two kids. They're twins, a boy and a girl. So
Uh-huh.
in the Chinese culture, having twins, and especially a boy and a girl, that's so very auspicious. So everyone's like, "Oh, you're very lucky," because the Chinese culture is the dragon and the phoenix,
Hmm.
uh, boy, male, female, because it's a rare, uh, well, occurrence to have twins or boy and girl. So yeah, and they're going to be graduating from high school next year. So I don't know, things will change as well, I think, or things are already changing. So
Yeah. Well, so your parents don't live there, siblings,
no,
well, they're in another
no,
country. Huh?
no. So it's been quite hard, especially during the COVID, the
Mhm.
COVID years. I would call that the COVID years, especially because, China has, well, it's in the news where China has got this very strict COVID policy since 2020. So
Mm.
I haven't gone home and seen any family since, except
Mhm.
via, Zoom. So it's been hard. But yeah, this year we're looking forward to seeing family again.
Oh, that'll be
Yeah.
great. Well, then I guess art has helped keep you busy through the years of being in Shanghai and especially during pandemic shutdown.
Yeah, yeah,
Seems
yeah,
ceaseless.
yeah. And
Um,
especially because we had it first, right? And no one's
yeah,
had that experience, and we were like not knowing, is it like the end of the world? What is really going on?
we all
And
felt that
especially,
though.
yeah, and especially when it hit China, it was like during the Chinese New Year when everyone was supposed to be gathering and
Yeah,
being together with family. Yeah.
yeah.
So
Were
I
you able
was
to celebrate the New Year this year with friends in the area, or you still have some restrictions on getting together?
oh no, everything's just uh,
Open.
open.
Okay.
But we don't. My kids and I don't really celebrate much of the Chinese New Year except for food, the kind of food we eat during this time. But we celebrate more of the Christmas season, and
Uh-huh.
I don't know, somehow that's just how it is, with a
That's
mixed culture background. So
very mixed culture background. But
yeah,
still, when it's the fun, I think all celebrations are fun. Personally, love to just celebrate. But
yeah.
that was the theme. We incorporated a bit of that theme with the Chinese New Year into the Deck of Dreams that I've been working on my course.
Oh,
Our first month, January, we used the beautiful colors of red and gold and
oh,
fortune. And so like I was doing a little bit of studying and research about the year of the rabbit and all that kind of fun
oh,
goodness.
yeah.
Um,
It's the year of the water rabbit.
yeah, water rabbit.
Yeah, it's
So
uh,
one element, one animal.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I think. Yeah, I think on my feed on Instagram I shared the Lantern Festival or the Light
Uh-huh.
Festival, and
Yeah.
they had the rabbit coming out of the waters and uh, with a whale kind of like coming out as well or doing a flip. So,
How fun. So tell me a little bit about your journey as an artist. So you were able to override your parents' wishes and you went to art school, which is great. And then from Taiwan, you went and studied more in China, but it looks like you've got like definitely your own path there with art journaling and mixed
yeah.
media. So how did that evolve for you?
Well, actually, at university we were taught so many different kind of using different medium. And of course, I kind of found my love for watercolor then. So I've actually, and then somehow being in Taiwan, it didn't really give me that much of a chance to actually sit down and do some art. But it was like that time, the advent of computers and using, Photoshop 1.0 for designing stuff. So that's how old I am. So,
No, we're
and,
both we're
and
both in that same camp. Don't worry.
yeah. So, and then, studying Chinese painting was a whole different sort of discipline because with the Western art or, your university, when you're studying paint, you're studying art and you're doing all these different mediums, a lot of self-expression.
Mhm.
And whereas you go and study Chinese painting, which to me was quite a shock because um, everything has to go on step by step like and you cannot just express your painting until you are a master of your of the art and you have
Ah,
to follow each of the rule and the steps and so for me that was kind of very constricting but it did kind of um it's still a kind of watercolor which for me was basically what I love to use
mhm.
um so a few years forward, I mean, I'm a graphic designer, so I've been mostly doing graphic design, and with and then I've decided that I needed something else, like an outlet out of my
Mhm.
usual computer work. So that's how I kind of got into a bit of art journaling. So it started with creating little ATC and then a little bit of art journaling here and then.
Yeah.
And then I think, when you have this kind of thought in your head that you want it to be perfect or it's not good enough and all that, and then you kind of like, well, I kind of stopped doing anything else except for watercolor, like doing art journal for a couple of years. And then I kind of slowly got back into it without really knowing that I was back into it. It was just, starting with collage. And then,
All the
so for
layers of
me,
mixed
this,
media.
yeah. So the art journaling part is basically my outlet for you know, doing self-expression basically. And that was a big help during our lockdown in China, when COVID started. So
Mhm.
yeah.
So it's funny, I hear this more often. I'm actually coming to this full circle too, where art is a profession for a while, and then eventually art becomes a hobby again. It's like I just need a chance to express myself without the pressure of what it will be, as a
Yeah.
finished product. And I think that's really beautiful. It's like we make art our career, and then somehow we find a way to make art our hobby again.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's a
Uh,
beautiful circle, finding that joy in it again that way.
yeah. Do you enjoy using your hand, like apart from, using a mouse, like just touching and putting things together, and even a 5-minute collage? I think that,
Yeah.
that's somehow good enough as long as you're kind of busy with your hand.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
to just like get it out, get like so that we're not so computers and task oriented that it just kind of becomes
Yeah.
play, which is our theme anyway. But
Yeah.
like it really does just become play again. And when you can finally get into that play spirit, it just changes everything. So, what does
Yeah.
that like? How would you describe that for you? How you incorporate play into your work? The fun, the play, the joy, because our whole theme is return to play.
Yeah. I think for me, I always kind of look back into when my kids were growing up, when my kids were little, that we'd always like have a lot of art sessions together. And I would see them like, you know, putting their hands on the paint, and I could see my daughter like uh, basically just having paint in her hand, and that was good enough for her. And I could see how happy she was just touching, things like that. And then for some reason, that just to me, that just comes to me as something that is natural, and there's no pressure, and just enjoying what you're doing, and the feel of paper, the feel of paint in the hand, and somehow that's liberating in a way. Or just if you're cutting up pieces of paper, like, or painting flowers and then cutting them up. And for me, that's fun. And it's basically anything that I think the important thing is to have that mindset that you're creating something for yourself, and not. And I think, yeah, I don't know, I've been hearing that a lot in
Yeah, not for other people, but for
podcasts. Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah. And I
But I
think,
like your reference to watching how children create because they don't really think about the end product. They are just in that process. They're making a mess, how it
mm,
feels, how,
yeah,
how it looks like just as they're doing it, and just the joy of the process.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. And then, when you're in that moment of being a parent, and then you see that, like, well, you're just making a mess, you're not doing anything. You should do it like this, you have that kind of sense, like, this is how it's supposed to be. And then for some reason, looking back at those times, it's like, no, it's just, and in a way, I was kind of jealous that she was just doing that, with the pain and just making a mess, but whatever. Yeah.
Oh, to
Uh,
be jealous of a child again, there's an
yeah.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because yeah. Okay. So I'm like leaning in on this feeling. Like I get it. Like thinking about how a child plays and to not have the worries.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
because they're not worried about what other people are going to think. They just
Yeah.
make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
they
what are your
slobber
favorite
paint anywhere.
what are your favorite materials that you like to work with now that just kind of helps you feel that freedom and that playfulness?
Um, for me, it's anything really. I don't right now. I don't really have anything favorite, but as long as it's something that I could, if you once in a while when doing a process video, if I'm sharing something on Instagram or sharing something that you would see there's paint in my hand, it's only because, whatever I was doing, I just like to have stuff in my hand. So depending really on what I could, put on the surface, or like scroll, or whatever. And so, but I think watercolors definitely a big thing, and uh, anything really that I can play with. So
So
this is
just
probably not the right answer that you're, or
no,
I
that's
don't know
that's
if
great because
it
it's like
makes sense, but
you're drawn to all the stuff and how they mix together then like
yeah.
you use them in very unique ways. I can say that. Are there any tips of incorporating watercolor in the mixed media or do you keep them separate?
Usually when I Pro I yeah, I don't really use it as much on the page itself, but I usually like to create little bits and pieces that or ephemera, if you call it that, and then
Hmm.
cut them up and then add that as a top layer onto my
Okay.
pieces. And then, but usually I like to use the distress crayons because I could water them down or just rub
Hmm.
something on top and just let the water slide or whatever. But yeah,
Distress crayons are from
crayons, right?
Ranger, aren't they from
Sorry.
Ranger Tim Holtz?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those
Okay.
or the neo colors. The
Yeah.
neo
Neo
colors
colors.
are, I think, my favorite. Yeah,
Yeah, I have
because
those too. They
yeah,
are.
because
Are you able to get a lot of those supplies, or do you have maybe some unusual supplies that you get access to there in Shanghai?
yeah, you can get them, but of course, because the import duties for China is quite high,
Mm-hmm.
so they cost a lot more. Um, but there are quite a lot of very local brands. Actually, before, if I remember right, before there was a the distress crayons, my kids were playing with something similar already with a local brand.
Oh,
And they were quite, very intense pigments, and we used to play with them a lot because they're also easy to clean according to the manufacturer's, instruction because they're for kids. So I constantly look for interesting materials that they have on the Chinese local website, an online shopping site,
yeah.
because even if they're local brand, they're quite good actually.
Yeah. I would imagine
And
there's got to be all kinds of really amazing products that I don't have access to on a regular
yeah,
basis. Plus
yeah,
the
yeah,
inspiration. Now, it's your home, so it's all the same old to you. But for me, I mean, and that should be our goal anywhere we go is to open our eyes with that kind of like sense of wonder. But there
yeah,
definitely has to be a lot of interesting places and spaces to inspire your artwork.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have as many art supplies. I mean, physical art supply stores. A lot of it now have moved online. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing with China, or at least Shanghai, is that a lot of places are kind of like similar places are kind of packed or within that same kind of area in the city. So, for example, the art supply stores are like, you go to this one area and there's
Okay.
all the different art supply stores, like one after the other. So if you want to go buy hardware, there's like an area specific to hardware
Hardware.
material, you know what? So it's kind of easy to go there and then,
That's your
just browse
probably the
around and
favorite section to go to then, right? I would love
yeah.
that's probably where I'd want to be all the time too in the art supplies. I saw
Yeah.
on your feed, I was just enthralled and I looked as closely and in detail as I could. You were just in an art exhibit with other people from your
Uh,
city. Yes?
yeah. It's an urban sketching group. So
Yeah.
um I was actually talking to some of the people who's been part of the group, and we were just saying that I've been with the group for over 6 years now, I think, or actually maybe more. So it just started as a hobby by a person who wanted to sketch every Saturday. So it's been a regular thing that we've been sketching. And the theme for this year's exhibit was trying to um, how immortalize, I'm not sure if that's the right word, immortalize those old Shanghai urban landscapes that are slowly disappeared because of the urbanization and modernization of the city.
Okay.
And so yeah,
So the
but
historical sites to,
yeah,
to to definitely put a focus, shine a light on that. That's really cool.
yeah,
No wonder I was very attracted to the work that I saw. What I could see from the photos that you shared of the work on the walls and the group of you
yeah,
all together. And I'm like, how fun is that? I kind of miss that community
yeah,
aspect. And maybe
yeah,
it's time for me to spend a little search a little more for my in-person friends. I think urban sketching is kind of popular throughout the world now. It's become really
yeah,
a great
yeah.
outlet. So
Yeah. I mean, the fun thing with the group is that it meets on every Saturday morning, so it's like a regular thing.
mhm.
And the thing is, like, I've been, going to places that I would probably not even think of going. So in a way, it's kind of opened a lot of new possibilities, or just showed a lot of Shanghai that I've never seen or not would not think of going or seeing.
Yeah.
So it's I think that's the extra part.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it used to have a lot of expats joining the group, a lot of designers, or a lot of architects actually, and there's even some people who are not artists who are part of the group. They just come and just be with people and start sketching, and with no art background, and it's quite a diverse group. And yeah, I'm sorry, I lost track. Yeah, there used to be quite a lot of expats, and now it's mostly Chinese because of people has left during the COVID years. So
Yeah.
mm,
Maybe that'll change
what's
again.
happening?
There'll be more.
Yeah, we're hoping, yeah, that's going to change. Well,
So
in terms of the whole city itself, but
for sure. So I'm going to just ask, it's a question I love to ask everyone who's on my podcast, and we'll probably put this on the podcast as well as playing it for the Virtual Art Summit. But what is your big audacious dream? If you were to just like look into the future and there's something amazing that you'd like to accomplish, have, do with your art, with your life, with your family,
hmm
what's your big audacious dream?
to be able to retire and just paint and create art. It's
That's a
probably not
beautiful
as
dream.
it's probably not as how do you say that, as unique, or but for me that is probably it. I'm like thinking, especially with kids going off to college soon, and I'm thinking, now I have more time to do art, or does that mean I can leave Shanghai and go maybe home to the Philippines or somewhere, and you know just paint? I don't know. I mean, just for me right now, it's like that's starting to be closer and closer. Like,
That's
but we'll
really
see
beautiful. Yeah,
after I
more
pay for
time to
college.
play. Yeah, more
Yeah,
time to play, right?
yeah, yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Arlyna, so much for joining us.
No problem.
Remember, everyone who's listening will give all the details to find her at AB Shanghai so that
Yeah,
you can
definitely.
follow Arlyna and
Thank you.
join us in the Virtual Art Summit so that you can see her beautiful
Yeah,
lesson.
yeah. Thank you so much,
Thank
Kelly.
you so much.
Thank you.